The synchronicity by 2026, the experts are saying it's just months away. What is the synchronicity? It's when man and machine merge. It's when machine takes over in mental capacity, in mathematical capacity. People have been talking about it for decades, but it's really at the cusp. What does that mean? We're going to talk about artificial intelligence, assistant or assassin. Good to have Jason Georges and Jesse Levesque and Jackson Levesque here today. We're on the Bible Nation podcast talking about things important to the culture and giving you the Bible that helps us think it through. Remember, the best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven and it works. What are we standing up for? The ability, the freedom to do what's right as God defines that right.
God's the ultimate author of liberty.
We don't want government to stand between us and our freedom to do what is right.
Gentlemen, thanks for being in the podcast studio today. We've all had some heavy-duty weeks here. I know our church, Emmanuel Baptist Church, has had a Friend Day. It has a school that's in the throes of school. We're in a building project. What else is going on? I mean, that's just three fingers, right?
That's just Monday.
That's just Monday.
Planning for a new year.
Now we're into calendaring season. Yeah. And Jackson, what about youth group? What's going on there?
We are hopping in youth group. We had just about 60 teens last night, so
yeah.
They're overrunning our youth room space, which is awesome.
I heard at the Harvest get-together out at the farm, Broncoma Farm, there was 80 teens, is that right?
We had close to just over 60, which is more than we've ever had out at Harvest Park.
Yeah.
So really cool.
You guys are running and gunning, but you know what? You give busy people a chance and they'll get it done. You want something done, you give it to busy people. So I appreciate you guys in the studio today. I think this is episode
16, season 5, episode 16.
Episode 16. We usually try to have 20 plus episodes. So thanks for joining with us at the Bible Nation Society. We want to talk about artificial intelligence again. We've done the last couple of years. We've done a few podcasts on artificial intelligence and what it can be, what it should be. But it's like it's here. It's come on faster. The waves are rolling. You know, the gravity is pulling, and it's just exploding. And then people are saying, you know, they're lying to you about it. This was the plan all along, and what's going on? Is it nefarious? Is it dark? Is it truly helpful? I know on my phone now, it kind of makes me, in order to turn my phone off, I can't push the off button anymore. They've redone it. So when I push the off button, I actually get an AI assistant, and I have to say, turn phone off, and then it takes me to the turn phone off menu. And so they didn't give me a choice. That's just how they're making Doug Levesque jump through the hoops. And I know that's small, but that really makes me mad that I can't push a button and turn my phone off. And so they are talking about, 3 months away, by 2026, we will hit this level of synchronicity with man and machine. And of course, the artificial intelligence folks are really leading all discussions in almost every field. They're at every meeting today. And as an American, you're like, well, we have to stay ahead. We gotta, if we're gonna compete in business, in military aspects, supply chains, all that kind of stuff, we're gonna have to use it because the other countries are using it. Futurism magazine had this article out this month. And it says, top U.S. Army general says he's letting ChatGPT make military decisions. Now, I remember about a year and a half ago, we had discussed AI, and we said we should not let AI be determining the pull trigger. Who is the target, and then go for the target. And the only countries doing so at that time were China and Israel, right? Well, Israel's just prosecuted an incredible war that has rid their enemies and put them on the cusp of something else. And China's, of course, just purged a bunch of generals, maybe because they don't need them anymore. I don't know. But all of a sudden now, the United States is in that race. So we're not only creating drones, but we're creating drones with AI that we can set it, forget it. Put them in the air, put them at sea, and they'll determine the threat, and they'll execute the shoot order. And hopefully there's a kill switch somewhere so they don't shoot us. It's real sci-fi type of stuff.
Well-
and we had said that we weren't doing that, but now all of a sudden it's confession. Yeah, we absolutely are doing that.
Well, I mean, and there's a couple of aspects of why we ought to be concerned about that. Now, there is the Terminator aspect of it, like the consciousness of the AI and it turning against us,
Yeah.
right? But I think even before that, what's important or what we ought to be concerned about is when you remove morality out of war,
Yes.
we will be plagued with wars.
Yes.
And so when there's not a human being who has to, in his soul, believe in his just cause
Right.
and pull that trigger to take another man's life. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's not man versus man, is it any longer just war?
Right.
I mean, because now those calculations are simply an algorithm. They're simply a math formula on whether or not how I kill you, when I kill you, why I kill you, all of that. And I mean, if you demoralize war, if war becomes immoral, then we're doomed because
Then it's no longer even just war. It's cold calculated murder because
Right.
it will calculate civilian casualties.
right.
It'll calculate repercussions, or it'll calculate aftermath of international opinion. It'll calculate all that and then say mathematically this works and we can do it. And so, yeah, you leave the morality.
Well, and that's why we've called the history's greatest warmongers insane, right? Because they whatever they had in their psyche, they were able to turn off that God-informed conscience that says I probably shouldn't kill millions of people.
You have the great writings of war like Napoleon's Maxims or Sun Tzu, Art of War, and there are these cold, calculated facts and statements, and most generals read all those things. What was the Swedish king that wrote on war as well, that everybody, reads that particular thing of war? And then there's Machiavellianism, But usually it's a human processing all those writings, and determining and having a conscience about, and then trying to turn it around. Even like Bush Jr., he prosecuted a war, and then afterwards, you haven't heard two words from him when he's left the presidency, and they say he was really down because he felt like he was taken on some things, and that this war not only killed innocents, overseas, but it killed a lot of American soldiers, and like he's just trying to find a way to live with himself. So there is that moral aspect, even to the most powerful man on the planet, the U.S. president. I'm not sure about this particular president. I mean, it is all mathematical and exchange. And I'm not necessarily against using AI as a tool of war to keep up, just like we have to have a better jet, we have to have a better rifle, we have to have better production, etc. Except that we are crossing that line now, and we're having to consider that. And I would think that if any country was trying to put some sort of moral maze before the thing could take over and kill switches, I would hope it was us. Now I don't know if that's just wishful thinking, that we're the ones that would do that. But I would hope that somewhere in the philosophy or doctrines of war that maybe they're just being written now, on how that's going to work. Because it certainly seems that using AI over in Ukraine is how Ukraine's held on with their they're using drone technology with AI, and it's asymmetrical war that's keeping them in the fight, and it's keeping the numbers equal.
And it's changing you would think it would change the composition of the battlefield. In World War II, we were trying to bomb Germany's industrial base. Like first we out-industrialized them, but we were gonna every time we could shut down one of their plants. Man, we really
shorten the war.
Right. So what now are the strategic targets? They're data centers and power plants. I mean, that's really. And so now we go back to some of our other things that you and I have talked about over the years, and this idea of, what do you call it, about the magnetic impulse?
Yeah, EMPs.
EMP. So now you're talking about, is EMP warfare, do we need nuclear warfare? Not because we need mass destruction, but we need to knock out whole electrical grids.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a different, the war is different.
No, in this case, if you knock out the other guy's electrical grid, you can knock out his AI.
Right.
Because it's so power hungry. So what we had talked about in theory, everybody thought we had 5 years or 10 years, but what we had talked about in theory is now very much practical a year and a half later, and we're at the cusp of the ability to kind of do autopilot war. Go ahead.
Throughout all of history, the great advancements are always made faster in times of war. And I think there's this idea that the advancements being made with AI is happening in Silicon Valley, and it's peaceful and it's just whatever. But you got to think about all the money that's going into the advancements of AI because of our global conflicts. Often we try to relate the topic to what's going on in the world, and you can't help but think, would AI be where it's at without some of the conflict that's been around? We talk about the moral reasons or the different world leaders. We just did a Netanyahu review speech, but even the technology, it greatly benefits from everything happening. There's a lot of money to be had for these technologies because of the war.
Israel's at the top of this technology and stuff, and they share it with who they want to share it with, against their enemies or whatever, and they can pull the triggers when they want to. But you know that with all those tech companies, that Netanyahu said, okay, we're declaring war, get our AI guys in here. Everybody's trying to race for AI. And then he said, okay, and AI said, well, divide and conquer, that's a maxim of war. But we're going to do Hezbollah, then we're going to piecemeal this out, and this is how we're going to do it. But we have to have United States, so you have to kowtow. So Netanyahu doesn't want to kowtow anybody, but he's kowtowing in huge ways now, And Trump also has to have some AI gurus that are saying, how do I run the world? What's the great deal to do this? And so I'm just saying it's a different game, and it's not way off in the future. It's right here. And it's affecting everything. If you're a grocery store and you're competing against another grocery store, you get an AI guy and say, how do we get just a little bit of edge to flank and overcome and then, own this particular AI store? And that's going on. So it's not just warfare, but it's economic warfare. I imagine sports teams, are putting in all their roster with datas and saying, how do I go through the season with less injuries? How do I rotate guys out? Which game should I pick? I mean, we with computers, we've been able to do our own programming, but now we're letting it do the programming. And I think Pastor Jay said something interesting. Talk about the levels of use of AI, because it really speaks to assistant to assassin, and that is we can ask it for help, and then it becomes a tool.
Right. No,
or we can say partner with us, and that's where the moral line crosses, and then we say, tell us what to do and we'll follow you.
Well, and so as you're saying that, I'm thinking, at what point do we lose the ability, the knowledge to make war? At what point does a general become so handicapped or so dependent upon AI that he just misses the fundamentals? I mean, they're probably just, the ideas of movement and supply and just the fundamentals of war.
Yeah.
Right. And history has proven that these fundamentals never change.
Right.
Technology changes, weaponry changes, but the things never change. But so that kind of speaks to this idea of the evolution of AI.
Yeah.
And not only the evolution of AI, but commiserately our evolution of adaptation of AI.
Right.
So at the very beginning, the idea of AI, is that even that concept is not, what we're talking about has broadened beyond simply AI. AI would be defined as something of narrow intelligence. It blurs the interface between collected knowledge and the ability to access it.
Okay.
And so you think about, like, back in the old days, if you were going to be a graphic designer, you had to know how to use a very complicated program like Photoshop.
Right.
Or if you're going to be a web designer, Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
If you were going to code a website. Now there are simple interfaces that allow the common person without a lot of knowledge to be able to do those things. Right. Well, AI has now taken it another level. I don't have to have any graphic design. I can just, with words, describe what I want, and the AI will produce it at a higher level. Okay, so it's basically the superpowered calculator. But at that point in relationship, we are still we're the operator. It's the servant to us. We're utilizing, and we can always tell it to stop.
Right.
I could not prompt it. But then they go from AI to AGI. And that's better than what man can do. And I think this is a lot of what we're describing. And I think this is the pull. Is because these generals and whatnot realize we need this technology because it can do better than what a human can do. And so now even
the collective PhDs.
Remember when the Apache came out and the big thing, Apache helicopter, and the big thing was they wore this interactive helmet that followed their eye. And so they no longer had to aim the Gatling gun in the front. They just had to look. And it could, and so almost to the point though, you couldn't fire that technology without that. We've lost the ability to aim a gun. You have to have that. And so it became better. And so you think about like these 5th generation fighters, they're probably impossible to fly without AI. You probably can't
Absolutely.
even get them in the air.
Yeah.
It's not a guy in a stick anymore, right? It is more a video game than it is actually
Yeah.
piloting. Well, the problem is it operates more as a partner with the user.
Right.
And so now I become dependent upon it. Well, the ultimate evolution is what, and you and I talked about this off camera, ASI. And this is super intelligent, beyond human capability, so that it can operate with its own conscience and motive.
Yeah.
And so it will operate. When we get there, it is so smart, we can't tell it it's wrong because it is telling us things we do not know.
It could circumvent us, or
But-
it could
but we
outsmart us.
We can't prove it wrong.
To manipulate us. Yeah.
Sometimes even now you do some AI stuff, you go, well, that's not right.
Yeah.
And what you changed your prompt. And so the big field right now is AI prompt engineering and how you prompt. And it is kind of a fascinating thing because before you tell the AI what to do, like you go to ChatGPT or Gemini,
You can lay some rules.
well, you define a role.
Right.
I want you to respond as a male, this age, doing this. You give it all this context, and then it really refines that result because now it is not refining. It's not responding from a neutral position. It is responding according to a defined role.
Yeah.
And so that's really the power. The power user knows how to define his role, but the AI side begins to give us information that we can't debate. We can't prove it wrong.
Right.
You can't prove it wrong. And so when it does this, it will operate from a point of authority that we cannot argue with.
Right. Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
And in that, it just because you're a good debater doesn't mean it's true. And so if it learns how, now we're saying, hey, that thing's being creative, but it's being deceptive. It's not true. It's making something up. But when it gets to the point where it's
can't
covered
prove
in
it's not
track-
true.
Yeah, and it creates 100 years worth of history, so it can go back in history. Think about Jesse, your field of education. When ASI comes in, do we need a school anymore? I mean, we probably won't need a schoolmaster, but what's education going to look like in that regard? So what's a parent's best choice?
Yeah, well, there's always been ways for kids to plagiarize, right?
Right.
But there was even since I've been an administrator for 5 years, kid does it, and it was actually in a way easier to go back and find. Oh, okay. If I dig a little bit, I might be able to find the articles
That the AI used.
because it's not like they're going super deep into the
Right.
internet to find
Right.
it. But with AI, it all comes down to how you prompt. And so if a kid really wanted to do that and knew how to do the prompts and make it, hey, right at a 7th grade level.
Make a bulletproof. Well, they're finding out these like Harvard, these Columbia, these university presidents that are DEI hires. They're going back and looking at their papers and they're saying, this is all bogus papers and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you cross the morals, you use the tools, you get the job. In some ways, like, okay, yeah, that's how you do it. I didn't do anything morally right or whatever.
Our caution to parents is your kids have to develop the ability to think. And a research paper is a great exercise in go do some research.
Yeah.
Research being deeper than the AI conglomeration answer that it gives you at the top of the Google search bar. And be able to support an idea and give some argument and follow an outline. And I really fear that's the ability.
You wonder if a parent plugged their kids in, to an AI education system, if they could just plug, play, let it go, and if the kid would get to the point where he was 14 and he had a Harvard education, like, could the thing do a good job of it? You know what I mean? Would it end up humanistic? Would it end up well-rounded? Because I think that's next.
Education is always moral, first of all.
Yeah.
Remember, our friend Dr. Tim Schmidt says it's a transfer of personality.
Yeah.
So education, there is no such thing as amoral education. It all comes from a worldview, and it's all moral. But what y'all are what we're discussing here begs the question then to get back to having a fundamental understanding of what education is. Education is more than 3 quizzes and a test. What is education? I mean, that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
But at the core, what is education? Because, yes, when technology arises, it questions the status quo and it forces us to re-examine why do we do what we do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we know the process, but we forgot the genesis of the idea or what was the core or the reason behind it. But even with the AI and the report and book report, we're going to have a little test here to see if any of our students are smart enough to listen to this podcast.
Right.
Because You would think they would be.
Right.
Right? Like a little espionage.
Right.
Hey, Pastor Jay, I heard that last podcast. I mean, that's an instant spirit point, students.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're listening, instant spirit point.
Yep.
Tell us what our last podcast was about. But anyways, inside down. So level 1 is write me a book report on George Washington, right? Level 2 is write me a book report on George Washington that actually sounds like something I wrote, 10th
Yeah.
grade level,
Yep.
whatnot.
Yep.
But where do we not go, hey, give me the top 5 books on George Washington that would be utilized by a high school student in order to write a report? Gives me the books. Now synthesize for me the main point of each one of those 5 books. Gives me the main. Now give me 5 quotes from each book that will
Right.
help. I mean,
Learn how
you
to
can-
use it,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can run it through that whole process. Well, I don't know. At what point did you start cheating?
Right.
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 At what point? At what point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At what point did we go from me thinking and producing a thing and like, hey, I can go read those books?
That's
But-
what I'm saying. It comes
like,
a point
at-
where
at
the
what
parent,
point?
the parent might say, "This is my best option. I don't want to go to this poor public school that's underperforming or has these, horrible principles for my kid. I can't afford this private school over here. And so what do I do? It might become where this is this great option. If someone taps that, they will become a bazillionaire.
And it's funny because in school, what we're talking about,
Yeah.
the predecessor to that was Wikipedia. It's like, don't use Wikipedia because it's like crowdsourced information. There's going to be a lot of footnotes at the bottom of sources you can go
Yeah.
to, but it's
Wonder
about
how much AI doesn't use.
it's
Wikipedia.
about knowing how to use what's there
Yeah.
and or go down and like
But,
those.
but
are the
AI
sources they
doesn't
use.
generate unless you ask it to. It is just quoting in
Yeah.
a very. But it's
That's
quote.
why in the end, it's a good logarithm, and it's multiplicities of logarithms, and you can tap at different levels. So in some regards, it's a great spreadsheet that you tap into, but they're saying now it's more than that because now it's
It's a friend. It's a partner.
It's a friend, and we're leaning towards.
It's a sounding board. I'm going to bounce some ideas off you and see what you think.
Definitely. We did that earlier with the debate against James White. Like
Yeah.
we checked
Yeah.
Jackson.
I got a question for our school administrator over here. I can never be a school administrator, so props. So with math, the way that math evolved, the calculator played into how you teach kids. As opposed to teaching them to do it all
Yeah.
in the head, it was, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket. You need to know how to do this.
Right.
To where now math is, hey, we're going to show you how to use the calculator so you can do math. Beyond that, the argument I've heard from education or educators with AI is, we said that they're going to have to do all these things that now AI, they don't have to. And that's
Right.
kind of the argument being proposed. So as school administrator, how should we help students navigate the world of AI? Like, is there a principle or a couple principles that you think are key to tell kids about AI?
And you don't have to have it completely figured out right now.
Well,
We're
and
on the cutting edge.
funny that you say that way because they all have a calculator in their pocket, and so really it's
They all have AI in their pocket.
yeah,
it is.
and so really what AI is information processing, right? And it's to aid you in that information processing, and so that's kind of even the mindset that people are taking is kind of compartmentalizing. How can I store knowledge, or how can I maybe not be overloaded with knowledge that's unnecessary? And so really we are on the cutting edge, and for our school we're still kind of right now it's kind of hey, don't use it in what we're teaching you. You don't need to use it.
Right.
Right.
We want you to learn how to think,
Yeah.
but again, it's like any other technology. Technologies we questioned yesterday, we use today and don't think about it.
Well,
So,
my father, our
will it
fathers
be-
used a slide rule.
Yeah.
But a slide rule was just the early smartphone in your pocket. I mean, it had all the data there. It was about ways to turn it, flip it, manipulate it in order to get to that data. And so we say assistant to assassin, but we could easily say from slide rule to Einstein in your pocket.
You can always
You
make
know?
the argument, doomsday scenario, the world goes to pot. Who knows the things that are going to be important to humanity?
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah.
advanced mathematics, things like that, I mean, how long do you be a purist that, hey, you need to be able to do this all on paper, or really we have the technology at our fingerprints that helps you do this stuff?
Well, and I think that starts to beg to the question, and now we're going to an education episode here. What is education?
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing technology do here is make obsolete the simple rote memory of facts.
Right.
Like how much more value is there in memorizing the 20 bold-faced terms about World War II?
Right.
But more importantly is what should we, as from a Christian and biblical perspective, what should we have learned from World War II? Why did World War II? Not what did World War II, is why did World War II? How cause, and that's the next level of cognitive thinking. And probably when we think about these Christian curriculums, is what's going to separate the ones that survive the next 10 years and the ones that don't.
Right.
Because they're going to have to offer. They're all going to have to adapt to AI, and even utilize it at some function in their user interface. In other words, how do students engage with their content? They're going to have to. You're going to have, if bare minimum, you're going to have an AI search chat bot to help you find things. I mean, that's just what we're.
Unless you're Amish.
Well, the old internet tree of links is gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the new websites won't have links anymore.
Right.
You're just going to tell the website, I need to know the service times.
Right.
Show me the service times.
It-
I'm not going to look. I'm not going to go through a decision tree like that anymore. Right. But then what are the curriculums that then help the students really internalize and understand the lessons there? And I don't know about AI.
And then talking about, there's got to be a love of learning. I think of, it seems like students today, just tell me what's on the test. I want to know what's on the test. There's not that
Hunger.
that love of learning, that hunger, even in college.
But the pushback on that is, I would tell you, if you were to ask the students, we're having a staff meeting right here on camera, what is learning, they couldn't tell you. So they don't even know what to love. When you say love of learning, that means something to you. I'm not confident that those students even know what it means to you.
Well, and then when you get on the college level, we're talking about rudimentary here when it comes to elementary and high school, but college level, why are they buying the 1619 project? Because the same technology is giving us Christian heritage, but it's giving them the 1619 project, and so you can kind of pick your truth, man, and go with that level of education. And of course, we're seeing the results. They're losing their funding, they're losing students, they're losing all that, and then they're not winning. So we can see that, and maybe that's why we use AI to try to beat that or something. But what I'm saying is that it is bringing war. It's bringing war diplomatically, philosophically, in education, in commerce, and really in war. So let me move on to the next thing. Go ahead.
This episode's going to serve as kind of our boost point for our Bible Nation Sunday.
Yeah.
We're going to live stream that. If you listen to the pod, but you're not here at Emmanuel Baptist Church, we're going to push all that. A special Sunday where we do, the topic for this one is tech. So we're going to talk a little bit about education. We're going to get into some national effects. But I asked Jesse a question, so I'm going to ask the pastor. Jesse is a pastor, but he's also a school administrator. For the pastors in the room, this is a little
Jesse
bit.
too.
Jesse is, he can also answer this one. He's
Man,
well
he's
I
rounded.
get it. I'll
He's
sit
a
out.
jack of all
You're not
trades.
second class.
All right.
All right.
You're not second class.
Okay, so Wired Magazine 2 days ago, or today I believe, just put an article out about what's going to make ChatGPT stick, and one of their key points is its adult content.
Right.
And so there's always been the advancement of how people can get their hands on
Adult
on
content.
filthy stuff.
Yeah.
But this has been
Which is always
something
been.
like it's always been.
You go to a museum and the pottery.
And
Why
they quote that.
Why did they invent pottery?
In this
So
article,
could
they
make
quote
pornography.
that. But what's not been so predominant and what makes it so insane is the level of customization that somebody can have. It can fulfill anyone's fantasy.
Right.
So for morally, I know there's a lot of uses of AI, but this one they're promoting as one of the bigger uses. And we can talk about all the dangerous effects, but just morally, it's even a step above open access to the internet, because now anybody, I deal with teenagers, anything that a teenager thinks or wants to think, they can look up and have it tailored to them.
Yeah.
Well,
what would you guys say about that aspect?
So this goes back to something I preached about 10 or 15 years ago when I called it the avatar effect. And the idea is, is Christ have authority over our thoughts and imaginations? Because the fleshly rationale to that would be, I am imagining an immoral thing with a computer. It's not a real person.
Right.
It's worse. They would say it's worse to do this with a real person. Right. But I'm chatting with a computer. That's
justified.
And then the whole argument of that woman you're looking at is someone's daughter. Would you want so? Well, now it's like that's not anyone's daughter.
Right.
That is a figment of
Cartoon character.
It's not real. That's no one's daughter there. It just looks real. And so the idea then is the true question is, where does Christ's domain end? Where does his authority end? And if it extends into our imaginations, which Paul says in Corinthians, right? Bringing every thought and imagination into captivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he rules over AI.
Right.
If we talk about the supernatural realm or the ethereal world, the digital realm is probably the closest thing that's we could say is tangible. to
Well, and I
something.
think just a quick last thought on that is that has contributed to the people's ability to dehumanize one another. I think you could easily connect it to issues like abortion, but definitely pornography and all these different things, and even then down to war, because you're desensitized to that screen, and it really dehumanizes people.
Yep.
You know, they always say people won't commit war if they think they can't win it. And so if everyone thinks they can win it, then you have a higher chance of war.
Yeah.
Or they think they're going to die. Like a deterrent.
Yeah.
That's the nuclear deterrent.
So, sorry about that. That's my AI. Okay, so The Guardian, English newspaper over in England, has an opinion on religion. And it's funny, this is a religious opinion, but it's about AI. The Antichrist has long haunted American politics. Now it's rearing its head again. And it's going back to Palantir's CEO, founder, Peter Thiel. And so he's one of the really potent tech gurus around. And he's talking with AI, he's talking about religion. And he's saying that he's finding people are against AI because they think it's the Antichrist. Well, yeah, that would be our side of things. But he's saying, he's switching the rhetoric, and he's saying, no. It's the people who are against AI who are bringing on the Antichrist. Woe to them that call good evil and evil good, right? Own the argument, own the vocabulary. Well, now he's going around doing lectures. People are paying him to come do lectures, and it's a pseudo-religious idea. He was just out in California, San Francisco, hada, right? And he's talking about this principle. So he's out preaching a religious principle that those that are against AI are the ones that are going to usher in the Antichrist.
Have rejected the Messiah.
And the Guardian's picking it up. So this is no small thing. And I think there's some YouTube interviews that he's done.
A good. I'm just reading the beginning of it.
Yeah.
The Antichrist is clearly back, but perhaps he has never really left. As a historian of American apocalypticism, I traced how this symbol, a protein figure cobbled together from obscure biblical passages, has repeatedly migrated from pulpits to politics and back again.
Yeah.
Almost a century ago, fundamentalists mapped European dictators and New Deal bureaucrats onto biblical prophecy. During the Cold War, evangelicals scanned Moscow and Jerusalem for signs of the beast. In the first Gulf War, some Christians argued that Saddam Hussein was the Antichrist who was rebuilding the Tower of Babel. I got to tell you, I've heard all of those.
Yeah.
So this guy's he's synergizing them. He's giving a good synopsis. Whenever American power felt threatened or social change accelerated, Antichrist talk surged.
Yeah.
Today's version arrives with AI, deepfakes, and venture funding, and with bullets.
Yeah. Peter Thiel's Antichrist lectures,
Right.
consisting of 4 sessions organized by the Ep16 Collective, were marketed as explorations of theology, history, literature, and politics of the Antichrist. And so sold out. People are traveling the world to come hear him lecture on this. And so this religion and tech meeting together is definitely on the rise as well. But it's interesting that Peter Thiel is, and Palantir is probably second only to BlackRock
So
as far as potent, controversial organizations. Go ahead.
So Acts 17 is they came to Thessalonica, where the synagogue of the Jews was, reasoned with them out of the scriptures, opening and alleging that Christ must have suffered, risen from the dead, and that this Jesus whom I preach unto you is Christ. Some believed, and some devout Greeks, a great multitude and chief, and then this is where Jason comes in, these that have turned the world upside down are come hither also. Acts 17.
Yeah.
These were at more, it's the Thessalonica passage, more noble, received the word gladly.
Yep.
Now Paul waited for them in Athens, disputed the Jews. Yeah, I'm trying to think where they get Acts 17. What
To
are
the
they?
unknown God.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's
And
Mars
then
Hill, right?
then it's Mars Hill after that.
Mars Hill.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So that's what they're going. This is actually a pseudo-Christian thing. A lot of these guys are hedging their bets on Christian theology. How are we going to make our plans pass? And we got to do it to Christians. And so this thing's taken over. And so I'm like, well, I'm one of those guys that would say, yeah, this is how the mark of the beast could take place.
Right.
But he's saying, no, it's the people who are bringing that in who are the problem. They're the ones bringing in the Antichrist. Well, now you've got a pseudo-Christ, and which one's real? And so this is so popular, it's making
And
headlines.
it's not just Christians.
Yeah.
There's technologists, there's philosophers
Yeah.
that aren't Christian
Yeah.
that have same concerns. I mean, everybody's grown up with the same sci-fi.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
machines taking over. You don't have to believe in what we believe in eschatology-wise to believe that this could
Yeah.
lead to some serious calamities.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh
it,
my
it should
goodness.
cause the
Yeah, have you looked up this Ep17 collective?
Uh-uh.
We need to do a whole podcast about these guys. Okay, they have a manifesto. It's a real sharp website. We are redefining success for those who define culture. A manifesto for the curious, the creators, and the culture shapers. As humans, we are all made to worship and will worship something if we don't worship God. What are you putting your faith in? What are you worshiping? In a world we're always building startups, audiences, reputations, it's easy to forget to ask what we're building towards. Fame, power, money, success, these things promise fulfillment, but often leave us wanting more. We believe that there's something deeper worth exploring, not just for your work, but for your soul, not just for your Sundays, but for your everyday, not just to fill you, but for you to find wholeness.
Redefining.
Wow.
That was the key word in that whole thing, because they didn't mention Jesus. They talked a whole lot about spirituality, and they're using Acts 17 as the push. And so let's get all the people that are influencers that will do anything for hits and views. And they'll even use pseudo-Christianity. They'll use some of this
there's
Yeah.
a lot of that.
And but really when they're saying worshiping, Pastor Jay,
Yeah.
don't you think we're directing towards the possibility
Oh,
of
no.
an AI that's worthy of worship?
Well, we're
man's
going to
creation.
we're going to worship the beast.
You talk about creativity.
So in order,
Yeah.
the Antichrist has to hijack worship.
Yes.
So much so that even the very elect will be deceived.
Yes.
So what is the mark? When we are there, when the coup d'etat has been placed, right?
Yep.
What will it look like? It will be the elect improperly, falsely, blasphemously
Yes.
worshiping, and they will have been snookered.
Yes.
Because he will reveal his mask. He will take the mask off, and then they will be horrified.
And the fact that Christians will fall away at this time, they're falling away to this. This is another gospel, and it seems like we're falling away to it. So, technology. Jesus was a carpenter, a tecton. So obviously he used technology and carpentry and all those kinds of things. But and obviously he's the creator of the world, right? So any technology is not unknown to him, and he's the chief creator.
I would say because man made in his image, with that ability to innovate, and so that's the innovations themselves.
I've always said the devil he's not made in God's image like we are.
Yeah.
So we have real creative powers,
Right.
And but he has
It's all women who
pervert
founded this thing.
creators. Oh, that's probably the sign.
Michelle Stevens, co-founder, executive director. Michelle Chin Fei, co-founder, COO.
it should definitely cause you shouldn't be a believer and think that this is a totally non-moral issue or have no opinion or just say, well, it doesn't affect me, because it does affect the entire world around you.
Yeah.
And to continue to be ignorant it's a sad path. You see a lot of people do it, but have an
Alpha.
opinion, ask questions, know what's going on, because this is more than just 20 years away. It's right now.
I'll read this real quick. In the 1940s, smoking cigarettes was the norm for most men and women in America, but rising public health concerns threatened to bring tobacco companies to their knees. Today, less than 4% of physicians smoke, and all medical professionals, along with most of the general public, agree that smoking kills. We know better now about cigarettes, at least, but in the digital age, we find ourselves in a similarly precarious situation.
Ooh, this constancy of this is like smoking a cigarette, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
it's
well.
little
It's
hit.
funny that article from the Guardian says from Silicon Valley to Michigan, and it links the guy in Grand Blanc who ran his car into the Mormon church in Grand Blanc, of all places. We talked about that,
Yep.
but it's saying that he's part of this Antichrist crazy thing, and it's trying to link Peter Thiel, saying, yeah, those are the people that you have to worry about. And he thought, but then we
Well,
come out-
so their past events, they list the Antichrist, a four-part lecture series with Peter Thiel. He also was the first event was May 5, 2024 in San Francisco, Holy Guacamole pilot event with Peter Thiel. So he's the originator, right?
Yeah.
They have a guy on Code and Cosmos Exploring the Convergence of Faith, Science, and Tech, Dr. Francis Collins. And then they have another one, The Theology of AI and Defense with Fassi Albani and Trey Stevens. Then Holy Shift, Faith, AI, and Leadership with Pat Gesslinger. And then the Antichrist one. I mean, these are their topics.
Yeah. So this is where we're at. So it's a new spirituality. It is a new spirituality of the tech haves and tech have-nots. We've kind of talked about that in Bible Nation for 20 years. It's interesting. I got two other articles here. I won't read them, but one of them is Palantir Kill Chain, from logistics to really weaponry. And then also, what's the guy, Ryan? He has a
Sean Ryan
Sean
show.
Ryan does Palantir Spy Tech. In other words, they're the spy company.
Jack,
today.
why don't you tell the audience what Palantir is?
This is where I've called on your guys' expertise.
From
Mine is
J.R.R. Tolkien.
This is a term original to Tolkien, and it's the Seeing Stone that helps. It's with the evil wizard Saruman, and it helps him see way off what's happening.
Yeah.
And so the
So
company,
it's not
what
sci-fi,
they do,
it's fantasy.
what the company does is it combs through these huge amounts of data and lets them see.
It's Minority Report.
It let them see what's happening, what's happening, what's going to happen. So it's interesting that even as we talked about the weapons aspect of ChatGPT was the sword from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
This is another one of those technologies.
Well, then we talked about last week the Anduril, the new weapons company. What is Anduril?
Anduril's like the sword. It's the most powerful weapon, basically.
So we got these tech
So
companies having these fantastical
names are very
ethereal
intentional.
swords. Yeah.
Very intentional, and it kind of reveals a little bit of their plan because
And
in and
Tolkien's
of
works had
itself,
spiritual themes, and so
Yeah,
it's
he's
all-
Catholic.
Pseudo spirituality.
Yeah.
But-
absolutely.
the fact that they would call it something that even in the writings of the book was used by evil for evil is pretty bold. I mean, now, a lot of people probably don't know that, but
But like
you're
Google
a
always
fan.
said, what was Google's motto? Like, do no evil.
Do no
Don't
evil.
do harm. Well, they might have intended that, but then now they're way
Well,
past that.
because these Tolkien and others are operating under a fundamental understanding of the nature of men, and so therefore that's how he was able to
key
imagine these things. He was able to because he goes, men. This is what men gravitate towards,
Yeah.
Right.
And so now, because of his ability, his high talent, he was able to conjure in his own imagination. Of course, now it's becoming a reality. And so when you think about this AI kind of conversation, the world is rapidly changing, but two things don't change. A, God. I change not.
Yeah.
He is the same in his natural attributes and his moral attributes. He is, and he's unfazed. It doesn't move him. He doesn't respond to. But then man doesn't change either. We are naturally depraved. You know, there's no good thing in us. We don't seek after what is right, unless there is a God intervention in our life.
And so, the pseudo spirituality, be aware that no man deceive you, Jesus said. It's, I'm not saying we're right there falling off the cliff, but all these things that we imagine in other ways all of a sudden become tangibly
real.
imaginative. Like we can really touch it. It's not even imagination anymore. Jesse, what were you going to say?
I have a verse pulled up here that I like, and I'm not comparing the Bible to technology by any means because it's greater. But you think of our technology, then I think of Hebrews 4:12. For the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. God's word can do what no technology will ever be able to do.
Tolkien's
But
swords
I like the
could
words.
only be reflective of God's sword.
Quick, powerful, sharp. Like, isn't that what we want? We want quick, we want powerful, but the word of God is quick.
And this vertical relationship with God through prayer and faith is a more important technology, if you will, skill, and it's real and it wins.
Right.
So the last thing that I had today, guys, I don't think we have time to talk about all of it, but there was another article, actually a YouTube vid, it was a very sharp Eastern European woman, and it's called New Colossus, and it's talking about how these huge campuses are being built rapidly in a month, in 2 months, and they're bringing data that nobody's brought the ability to have computing power in just months. And that's what's rapidly increasing this. And so every major tech AI company has these. Musk was able to do his in a month and put more computing power and data collection. Well, that requires incredible amounts of power. And so what Musk did is he had the plant on on the I think the Mississippi border, and what's the state right above it? Tennessee.
Tennessee.
But he put the power plant on the other side with Tennessee because Mississippi wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do, and apparently he couldn't put the plant in Tennessee. So he bought this property right across the state lines. So Tennessee, he's building the power plants, and then he went over to Europe and he bought old power plants and brought the stuff over here, resurfaced them. So like in months, he was able to have this instantly super high powered thing, and there's multiplicities of power steps because you have to have raw power and it has to come down to power, safe power. And so these things, she calls it the new Colossus. I don't know if she intends that, but there was a famous poem, I think it's in a Becca textbooks, called The New Colossus. And it's like the Statue of Liberty, and it's about America.
Yeah.
And it was for migrants. Like, this is our new beast, our new monster, our new machine. But today, these things are trumping and superseding. They're walking through the walls of American sovereignty and becoming their own national entity, supra-national entity.
Well, Colossus was one of those 7 wonders of the ancient world to the sun god.
And even Putin, they said, what do you fear? He goes, Musk.
Yeah.
I fear Musk.
Yeah.
Not America, not Trump. I fear Musk. And so, Musk is one of those guys that says whatever anybody wants to hear, and he's doing incredible things,
Right.
technological-wise. But the fact that building this super data center that's going to promote AI, and each one of these data centers around the world requires a nuclear power plant, and each one of these have more power than what powers 100 cities, is a rewriting of the script, a rewriting of society, a rewriting of the global order, like Pastor Georges was saying,
Yeah.
And so AI has gone from a wonderful assistant that we have in our on our phones that can help us think quicker than we can think ourselves. People are writing movies. They're not even writing the movie. They're telling the AI to write the movie, and it has characters, and it has drama, and it does the artwork, and it does the cinematography, and it does the music, and all that. That's incredible, but that's not the assistant anymore. You're not a
Right.
producer. You're not a director, right? You're partnering with, and like Pastor Jay said, we're at the cusp now of just saying the safest thing our country can do is go autopilot AI on economics, on warfare, and we're that's the next thing now.
Right.
But they're saying that this threshold, it's not super intelligence, but it's definitely synchronicity. It's general intelligence.
Well, and the blend is like, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the guy was talking about just uses of AI, and he does it from a business perspective, how to make money with AI and whatnot. And one of his suggestions was write ebooks with AI, but to ask it, here again, define the role, analyze all of Doug Levesque's sermons that are available, and what he has talked about in this topic, and develop me a skeleton outline of a book of everything he has said about AI.
Yeah.
And it'll scan all of that and write that book, to the point where I'm like, at what point do we need to have some sort of disclaimer on products that are for purchase,
Right.
on what level that they were produced by AI? I feel like that needs to happen.
I ran it at this year. We're doing a graphic design class, and we're using the Canva tool. And so I ordered there's a handful of books on Amazon because I wanted the kids to be able to learn graphic design with that tool, right? And there's so many things like that it's very clearly this was spit out by AI.
Yeah.
It
is the creator. It is the influencer.
There's no heart and soul in the way that it's being conveyed. It's very
In some ways, it's incredible. It's like
Yeah.
looking at a big ship, or it's like looking at a rocket or something. It's like, wow, that's impressive. It's great. It's neat. But at another time, we see this has not only crossing of moral line possibility, but it's going to the ethereal worshipful world,
Right.
where we worship the creature more than the creator itself, right? Yeah, go ahead, Pastor Jay.
No.
Okay.
No, I think we read this passage, and this might be where as we bring it in.
Yep.
2 Timothy
3.
chapter 3. I'm going to read from verse 1 because it kind of sets up. Paul's talking to Timothy. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. That could be like our tagline for the podcast. If we had another one, that could be it. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. So, like, if we're giving this podcast a proposition or like a action point, turn away. Be careful. For this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins and led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never being able to come to the knowledge of truth.
Yeah, even if the super AI solidifies the world with information, quote unquote, knowledge, it won't be able to be the definer or propagator of ultimate truth. It just won't. And so for us in ministry, it becomes important that AI is an assistant, but it's not an assassin. It's not writing my sermon. It's not doing my thought process. It's not coming up with the proposition.
Yeah.
And that we maintain that skill, and that when we go to the pulpit or we're going to the teaching lectern, we're teaching ministerial students or something like that, that we are trying to keep it, I hate to say this, human,
Right.
Or spiritual.
Spiritual.
No. What can't be so eventually, after the economy adjusts to AI, which is artificial,
Right.
therefore it can only create what is artificial.
Yeah, absolutely.
There will be a swing back to the authentic.
Yeah.
And what will be deemed as authentic is art and speech and media that is clearly conveys humanity.
Yes.
And not, I think our sense, we will begin to see the difference.
And I think that's what
And
Teal was
that's
saying.
what will be the great artist. Now, what actually is going to do is going to push the artist. Now you can't be, you're going to have to be better.
You can't go 50-50 on this stuff.
Right. But you're going to have to, it's going to, AI is going to get rid of all the wannabes.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to be truly great in order to stand out now. But when you talk about preaching and ministerial work and church work, the differentiator, which I will propose, so the paradigm hasn't shifted. The difference between a dead church and a live church has been the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And you can't AI the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so that will
Some
continue.
will attempt to do so.
Well,
Yeah.
because it's the mark, right?
Yeah.
And the mark is the seal of authenticity. Mm-hmm. And so the evidence of true conversion of salvation is being marked by the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And what is, so that begins with the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, but really it comes to the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And the markings of the Spirit in the person's life. Have you been sealed by the Holy Ghost? Yeah. And that you can't replicate that. You can't artificial that.
Yeah.
He will guide you into all truth.
Yes. He will guide you into all
Can't be
truth.
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but where this mark of the beast comes in, you can't buy or sell, or you can't travel, exchange, all that kind of stuff. It might be this debate of what is human, what's not, because it says it's the number of a man. Well, does that mean it's not a man, but it's the number of a man? Yeah. And so you look at Peter Thiel's perspective. Well, those that say no to AI, they're the ones bringing in the Antichrist. And you look at the other perspective, it's like this AI could bring in the Antichrist. Woe to them that call good evil. We got a diametrically opposed thing. Who's the God? Who's the creator? Who's the creature? Who's the, and it's going to be confused. And so is that Mark saying, I'm going to choose only that which is human, like what Pastor Jay was saying? Or is it saying, I'm only going to choose that which is trusted in this new beast of a thing? We call it a beast when it's not the Holy Spirit, but people will trust in like the Holy Spirit. So we've come to the penultimate line, but the Holy Spirit will guide you in all truth. You can know the difference. You can be on the right side of things, and you can be discerning and go through it. And I think you can even use machines. Yeah. You can even use helps as assistants, but we have to probably talk about this more to really define that. AI, can you write a book on how to limit AI in society or whatever? That probably should be, a book.
Yeah,
on
I
that
think,
sort of stuff.
and like I said, historically, the red flags always get thrown up with usually what's the new cutting edge technology. But I think back at some point, a hammer was technology, right? And so I could bash Jack in the head with that hammer,
right,
or I could use it for
Building.
its intended purpose. So it's a tool, right? Now the issue with digital technologies like AI is that they're shaping you in ways you don't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yep.
so we usually can look at tech and say, is technology itself moral or immoral? Well, that's, it's tools.
Yeah.
But now we're looking at things like this and it's much more. It's deeper than that.
Yeah,
It's bigger.
Even before ChatGPT, the effects of the smartphone on the generation. There's a book called The Anxious Generation about basically technology's effect on Gen Z, Gen A, and it's overwhelmingly like, don't give your kids phones.
Yeah.
And if you do, don't let them be on it ever.
It's
Because
changing them.
it's changing them
Yeah.
fundamentally to where parents are like, oh, I had no idea it was that dangerous. But it's their kids are coming out. Like parents have no control basically over how their kids are coming out. But the tech is raising them.
Yeah.
And even more than the iPhone and what you have on that, now it's the it's an iPhone with arms and legs. ChatGPT. It's so much more advanced than that.
Yeah.
And so we can only assume the way that a hammer is not going to pick me up or a hammer is not going to talk to me, the iPhone does. And the ChatGPT talks to me. It's my friend.
Yeah.
It can do whatever. And that is going to raise Gen A, Gen Z, the generations to follow. It's scary.
And I think this new AI dysphoria, we had kids not knowing if they're a he, she, or it, right? And trying to identify this, and then that's their social group. That's what they're reading. That's what they're becoming. And of course, it always ends in a fail for them. But now this AI dysphoria. Do I have a relationship with AI? Am I real? Or is AI directing me? Do I want AI to direct me in those kinds of things? So we should talk about AI dysphoria in a future thing. So if you're listening today, you see anything about that or have something to add to that conversation, we would love to hear
virtual
from
assistants, alternate realities. That's what
Yeah.
we can do next.
you. Yeah. So, folks, thanks for tuning in again today. Remember, the best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven and it works.